that we need to continue to stand strong to defend everybody's rights and freedoms.
Hey guys, how you doing today? You know, Clubby and I decided to take a walk because I fell down a rabbit hole. This video was supposed to be about our public safety minister and his ties to Sri Lanka rebels. That's the way I'm going to put this. And it was supposed to be about the downfall of Sri Lanka a couple of years back and the collapse of their government and everything in comparison to Canada. But in my research for that topic, I actually stumbled into something completely different. Well, not completely different. It's actually very relevant to the downfall of Sri Lanka. Sort of. And then let's give a little bit of context here. Okay. The downfall of Sri Lanka and the economic collapse of Sri Lanka was predicated by a number of factors. Poor fiscal management is primary. Okay, and well, over the last 10 years, we've had nothing but pure fiscal management, poor fiscal management for a long time here in Canada. Well, for 10 years under this Liberal government. You know, budgets will balance themselves, according to our previous Prime Minister. And that's only one factor. Another factor is investments into vanity projects, you know. And well, this Liberal government over the last 10 years have invested tons of money into green technology and green energy and all that jazz. All the green investments that we've made. Well, just take, like Jolie was just asked the other day, about the EV battery investments that everybody's bailing on. EV battery plants. We're talking like $30 billion of Canadian taxpayer money. And now she wants to transfer that to, well, it doesn't have to be just EVs. It can be into batteries for everybody. Okay. Well, that wasn't what it was sold as, but especially to the Canadian taxpayer who are paying for it. But okay. Anyway. So vanity projects are one of the things that brought Sri Lanka down. Plus poor fiscal management. And then there was the printing of money. And if you remember, during the pandemic, Trudeau doubled the national debt by printing money and he put more debt on Canadian shoulders than every single prime minister before him combined. Okay, he put us over $1 trillion in debt. Okay, so we got vanity projects, we have printing of money, and we have poor fiscal management. Okay, so the Liberals are trying to, you know, change their perception from Canadians to something a little more, you know, make Canadians believe that they actually have a better understanding of the economic situation and such. So they hired a banker to become the Prime Minister of Canada. I don't say elected because I still have questions over the Liberal nomination process and the Liberal leader appointment. There's way too many questions over that. You have 400,000 votes and 250,000 of those were discounted, and then for some bizarre reason an unknown name gets 150,000 of the remainder. It's just, there's too many questions over that. Anyway, so they're trying to change their coats, you know, change their stripes. Oh, look, we're fiscally responsible now. We have a banker. And one of his biggest things is Canada's not for sale. Well, one of the other factors that was the downfall for Sri Lanka is their foreign debt to GDP quadrupled in no time. Okay, it went from 11% foreign debt to GDP to 54% of debt to GDP. Now that's a pretty significant, that's fourfold. Okay, more than fourfold, that's like fivefold. No, fourfold, because it's like 43% more. Something like that. Anyway, that's fourfold on top. And that was one of the big, these were the big factors to the economic collapse of Sri Lanka. Okay. Well, Canada is not paying attention to that. And, well, actually, the media really kept that situation under wraps. They really didn't talk about it. They refused to actually acknowledge Sri Lanka collapsing. Sorry guys, I had a little hiccup there. Kind of got a little off track. So I'm just backed it up, did a little bit of edit, and we're back on. But this is going to be really brief here. And it's only because I want to show you some numbers. Some really important numbers that I think Canadians are unaware of and are extremely important. After everything I just told you about the comparison between Canada and Sri Lanka's downfall, economic collapse, I want to show you some numbers. Take a look at these. Hey guys, how you doing? I want you to take a look at some of these numbers. 95.05 or 93.05 in 2014. And we just keep watching these numbers grow and grow and grow and grow until we get to the fourth quarter of 2024 at 145.32. Do you know what these numbers mean? Have you any idea what these numbers mean? Well, it's percentage. I'll come back to you in a few minutes. Now I want to remind everybody, when our Prime Minister took a trip down to the White House to have a conversation with the Prime Minister, or the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Here, let me remind you of his after meeting comments.
Made known his wish about that issue for some time. I've been careful always to distinguish between wish and reality. I was clear there. in the Oval Office, as I've been clear throughout on behalf of Canadians, that this is never going to happen. Canada is not for sale. It never will be for sale.
Bullshit. I call complete bullshit. And unlike the Liberals, I'm actually going to give you proof that he is full of shit. Oh, here, take a look at the shit he's full of, and we'll talk again. Bullshit. That's what I say. Bullshit. Because you look at these numbers, and this is the reality. And you listen to the Liberals, and you listen to the Mark Carney speak about creating new relationships with new partners and all that stuff. This is the Liberals' record. And these are the numbers I showed you before. The Conservatives aren't exactly innocent in this because they were in charge in 2014 and the first, second, and third quarter of 2015. It wasn't until the fourth quarter that the Liberals took over of 2015 and then jacked it up to 111%. Well, I wouldn't say they jacked it up. It's just they allowed the sale of they allowed foreign investment in Canada. That's the word I'm looking for. And as you can see, it just kept getting worse and worse. And that huge spike in the middle is the pandemic. But if you notice, in 2024, we're almost at the same levels as we were during the pandemic. Let's go back to the walk. So, if Sri Lanka collapsed because of poor fiscal management, and Canada had that over the last 10 years with the Liberal government, and then another factor in Sri Lanka's downfall was the printing of money, which this Liberal government also is accredited for. And then another factor that brought Sri Lanka down was investments into vanity projects, in which this Liberal government is also prone to in their ideology policies and financial investment. And then the last factor that brought Sri Lanka's downfall was foreign investment to GDP capital. Foreign investment percentage to GDP rising fourfold from 11% to 54%. What does Canada's debt to GDP, foreign debt to GDP policy, foreign debt to GDP mean for Canada's future when we are at 145% of GDP, meaning we are 1.5 times the gross domestic product of Canada, of all of Canada, is owned by foreign investment, foreign influence. Is Canada on a cliff, ready to fall, just like Sri Lanka? As I said, this was a rabbit hole I wasn't ready to fall down. Is Canada? Welcome to the Fringe. Welcome to the Fringe.